Honesty, passion, experience. It's Timberwolves Explosion, hosted on the sportstuff.com. And now, your host, Paladino Joey. Hello again, Timberwolves fans. Are you ready for the explosion of Timberwolves basketball? I am your host, Paladino Joey, or Joey Awajan. Timberwolves Explosion is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, PodMN, Spotify, iHeartRadio. You could just go on and on and on. Stitcher, Double Twist, TuneIn Radio. Can't thank you guys enough for joining the show. And if you're going to listen, please download. Don't stream it if you could. If you stream it, I guess it is what it is. But I prefer you download. It just looks better and could help potential business in the future, that type of thing. PodMN, of course, highly recommended for local listeners or really anybody. It's just, it's just one of those things where you get rewarded for listening. It's basically a Minnesota exclusive podcast application for Minnesota-based podcasts. You could listen to it in Australia, yes. Just saying that it's all podcasts based in Minnesota. So nice to be a part of that. Great to be back on board. I wasn't anticipating doing a show super soon. State of the Timberwolves already released on, was it June 19th? That was already over a month ago. I can't believe it. Of course, ratings not exploding like they normally do in the past because like an actual season just happened, NBA Finals, and we're looking towards the draft, this and that. And, well, we're still waiting for August the 20th. I figured I'd do a show sometime around then because then we'd have an idea when the draft is. We could talk about the NBA playoffs if they exist, which they probably will, that type of thing. But instead, I'm recording around birthday week because, well, I figured I would only do a show if some kind of crazy news came out, and I figured the only thing good, or the only thing that might come out might be something bad, like something terrible happened to somebody, and you pray to God that's not going to happen again. We don't want any more bad news around here. Like, what else could it be? You can't make a trade because, well, I mean, it's technically the season still, and it would be during the, past the trade deadline. It's shut down. It's locked down. You can't make any trades right now until, like, say, the NBA Finals or something like that. Good luck to the Los Angeles Lakers. Lots of my basketball-loving friends in Australia are Lakers fans. Not all of them, that's for sure, but a chunk of them, especially Vinrock, Vince Germano, Stu Benson, Kalen Woods, guys like that. Just awesome people in Australia. But what else could there be? What other news could there be? There's not going to be a trade. There's not going to be a free agent signing. Let's stay away from any type of horrible, scary stuff like what happened to Flip Saunders or, God knows, Karl Anthony Towns' mom. Anything awful like that. What else could there be? Oh, that's right. Well, Glen Taylor owns the Timberwolves, and this time he means it, I guess. The Timberwolves are for sale. Well, it's about frickin' time. I guess he listened to me this time. Not many people listened to me, but I guess Glen Taylor did. I don't know. Sometimes I have that magic ability where I just ask for something like, say, Flip Saunders, please draft Karl Anthony Towns. I know you like him. I know you like Jahlil Okafor and all that. I just know you love Jahlil Okafor, but please, Flip, take Karl Anthony Towns. You can tell he's got a better future in the league as a defensive player plugging the middle. Well, he became a better offensive player than we ever imagined, but the defense didn't happen. But Karl Anthony Towns and Jahlil Okafor is not even a conversation anymore. It's not even close. So Flip listened, and I was finally right about something. And now, I guess Glen Taylor listened, or he listened to everybody else, because everybody else might have been saying the same thing. And I don't know, he was talking about selling the team for a while, and then Flip Saunders talked him into staying in, which was a wise decision because the value of the team has gone way up since the TV contract. I'm sure Flip had a pretty good idea that was happening, working for ESPN at the time. Convenient there. So the Minnesota Timberwolves are for sale, and one of the possible suitors is the same guy that wanted to be a part owner years ago and has been very upset with Glen Taylor and all that for quite a while, and he doesn't want to work with snakes and snake-like people, snake-like MFers, stuff like that. Well, now he loves the snake-like MFer because he wants the guy to sell the team to Kevin Garnett. Yes, Kevin Garnett is interested in buying the Timberwolves. A big shocker, right? Is the ownership material in terms of fan excitement, putting fans in the seats and all that, with the excitement of Kevin Garnett owns the team? Of course you're going to watch. Of course you're going to come in and sit down and plunk some money down if they allow us in the building anytime soon. Maybe we'll all choke to death on our masks while we're at it, because that's just, it's never going to change, is it? Rant over there. Haha, I'll keep that rant where it is. But Well, if we ever get to go in again, yeah, I mean, people would probably show up. The attendance would be high for a little while. There's always a honeymoon period. But, well, there's two sides to every story. There's two sides to everything. I mean, many people would tell you that Kevin Garnett wasn't the easiest guy to deal with behind the scenes, necessarily. Michael Jordan, as the owner of the Charlotte Hornets, is the only, like, full-on NBA player to own a team. Former NBA player to own a team. But Michael Jordan always wears suits. I mean, look at Michael Jordan as a rookie. He was constantly wearing like a tie and all that. He was always kind of business-oriented. Kevin Garnett might have a business sense to him because God knows his contract conversations got pretty interesting and he always came out ahead in those. So he's good in business on that side of things. But the other side of business is, well, he might have to be a little bit more interested in compromising a little bit rather than cursing people out like the NBA lockout situation when everything was getting better. And it was almost done, and then Kevin Garnett came in and started hurling his usual F-bombs and MF bombs to people, and the two sides parted like the Red Sea for a while. That was fun. People were not real happy about that. Just imagine Kevin Garnett in some kind of a Board of Governors meeting. And, yeah, Steve Ashburner talked about that on the Dan Barrero show, so, of course, yes, I'm getting some of that thought from Steve Ashburner, of course. What an awesome columnist through the Star Tribune years ago for covering the Timberwolves and eventually has worked for NBA.com ever since. I love Steve Ashburner. Probably my favorite NBA writer, probably. I think he is, honestly. But, hey, you know, there will be a dose of energy if Kevin Garnett does end up being the new owner. This time Glen Taylor is absolutely serious. There was no denial. There was no walking around it. He went on the Darren Doogie Wolfson Scoop podcast and all that, did Glen Taylor, and was like, yes, I've talked to 4 suitors, actually 7 possible suitors, and the whole plan is obviously to to sell it to a group that is basically like they're going to keep the team in Minnesota. They're not interested in moving the team to Seattle, to St. Louis. Those are 2 possibilities out there that are very much in play. I got to think. I can't imagine like a Montreal or something, even though that'd be kind of cool. St. Louis has been wanting a team back forever. Seattle, obviously, we'd love to see the Seattle Supersonics, and welcome to the National Hockey League. Too bad I didn't do Brave the Wild a teeny bit later, or too bad they did announce it a little bit earlier. The Seattle Kraken, welcome aboard. The Kraken, release the Kraken. We get a gigantic sea monster joining the National Hockey League in the next year. Kind of cool. So, next fall, the the Kraken's going to come out of the sea and take his talents to Seattle. So kind of cool. They have released the Kraken in Seattle. So we'd like to see the Seattle Supersonics then. That'd be kind of cool, but I don't want the Timberwolves to become the Seattle Supersonics. I would not like to see that. I'm sure the Sonics would have loved to have Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. Seattle Supersonics fans and all that would have loved that, but unfortunately that just didn't happen. And it would suck to see D'Angelo Russell and Karl Anthony Towns play in Seattle versus here. Hopefully they play as visitors in Seattle someday. Not sure if the NBA is in any rush to do any expansion at this second. But, well, I'm sure they could afford it at this point. TV contracts wouldn't hurt them at all. I'm kind of actually, I don't know, I wouldn't mind if they did that. Shove the Wolves into the Eastern Conference, then there you go, huh? There you go, right? Does that sound like a plan? Move the Wolves into the Eastern Conference, which is what we've always hoped for. But let's talk about Kevin Garnett again. His tweet, of course, at Kevin Garnett 5 KG. Well, where's the 21? I thought you were Area 21. You're just 5. Really? Really, Kevin? The 5th pick in the draft, the Boston Celtics select Kevin Garnett. Really, Kevin? You want to be the owner of the Wolves, you got to switch that sucker to 21, man. Okay? Okay, Kevin? Okay? He says, my passion for the Minnesota Timberwolves to be a championship team is well known, but I have a deeper affection for the city of Minneapolis. I, once again, want to see Minneapolis, I'm just kidding, as the diverse and loving community that I know it is. I wish it was loving. It might be diverse. I don't know how loving it is. No 2 people love the city more than myself and Glen Taylor. The snake-like people. But so you love, okay. And I look forward to trying to work with them to achieve my dream. So you don't want to work with snake-like people, but you look forward to working with them now because you might be willing to do business with you, hopefully. Okay. I'm sorry, but hey, you know the irony of it all, isn't it? Isn't that something? Come on, Alexa, you keep talking to me. Uh-oh. Now I just woke her up. She was, I I don't know what just happened, but she did a little boom boom. I actually like that sound. Oh, Kevin. Kevin, you're funny. You're funny. You're wearing number 5 still as your Twitter account. Now, of course, yes, the Celtics are retiring number 5, so I get it. But, well, you're going to have to change it to 21 once you become the owner, right? Right? If you become the owner, because obviously when we're talking about 7 possible groups here, it's not going to be that easy. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I think it would be a lot of fun, but again, I mean, can we go down the path again? Can we go down that road again? Trenton Hassel, Troy Hudson, Joe Smith, and I liked Joe Smith a lot, but a real true basketball evaluator that wasn't wearing lime and blueberry shades like I was back then. Yeah, I was wearing those shades back then. I'm not wearing them anymore. I'm not wearing those shades any longer. Would tell you Joe Smith wasn't that good. He just wasn't. You know what the problem was? Joe Smith had skill and all that, but he was too gosh darn slow. That was the problem. He just didn't move fast enough. And that's why, people saw him as a number 1 pick because of the skill. But then the fact he was just slow in his movements. It's like a hockey player with the hands of, like, the stick handling and all that to die for, but he can't skate, really. And then you take him in the top 4 of the draft, and he winds up being on the 3rd or 4th line. He makes it and all that, but he's just an average Joe. Pun intended. Pun intended. It's the same thing. It's like a hockey player that can't skate. The guy was slow, and if you're slow, you don't have quick movement, you're not going to be that great. His skill was good enough to keep him in the league for a long time, but he was more of kind of a glue guy versus being a franchise-changing player, which the Golden State Warriors hoped for back in 95. That was the Garnett draft, wasn't it? Back in 95, the Garnett draft. It's funny how guys connect. It's happened multiple times now with the Wolves, how top picks connected. Top picks that were friends connected and on the same team. Garnett and Joe Smith, Karl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell, this and that. It's just kind of funny. And I know how, was it Alonzo Mourning, Christian Laettner, all connected, and Shaquille O'Neal, all in the Miami Heat. The top 3 picks in the 92 draft were on the Miami Heat back in 05, and they got beat by Detroit by this much. Oh, I actually really cheered for that team. I like that Heat team a lot. But they just couldn't get past the Detroit Pistons. And then the next year they did, but poor Christian Laettner, no ring. Oh, man. Alonzo got it, though. Oh, Christian. I feel bad for that guy. I'm bouncing all over the place because when I start reminiscing, I just can't stop. I can't. Dunking with Wolves, of course, posted all these Twitter tweets from Kevin Garnett, so we appreciate all of that, always. Kevin Garnett's obviously in the Hall of Fame class. It's unofficial at this second because it hasn't happened yet. We all know that's going to happen at some point. Pros of him being an owner, the cons of him being an owner. See, the pros, obviously, you think about it, obviously, yeah, he would work well with Karl Anthony Towns. He'd be fun there. I think he would work with a lot of players. There'd be a little bit of a Kevin McHale, I think, in Kevin Garnett, where McHale used to work with players and help players out with some of those moves. Though it seemed like the guys always tend to go their own direction anyway. That's the annoying part. You can work with them until you're blue in the face, but then next thing you know, Karl Anthony Towns is out there like, Anthony Peeler, standing at the 3-point line. Hey, I'm open, So there's always that, and Garnett always had his own way. When he had some of those up and under moves that McHale did, he was freaking awesome. And then all of a sudden he stopped using them. Damn, they were some good-ass moves when Garnett used some of those McHale moves. Sometimes old school is not a bad thing. Obviously, the cons of Garnett as an owner, the personnel decisions, man. I mean, the personnel decisions, the bad attitude, cursing people out. I don't think he'd curse the players out, but he might curse out another owner. He might curse out, who knows? He might get in a fight with the referee in the middle of a game. Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban's a clown too, but I don't know. Okay, I didn't just call Kevin Garnett a clown, but he might act like one sometimes in certain situations. He might. I'm just saying he might. It's possible. It'd be fun, but then there's that other side. I mean, again, luckily he's not playing anymore, so he doesn't have to have the dogs on his team, his dogs, so to speak, like Trenton Hassel, Joe Smith, Troy Hudson, guys like that signed for, 5-year contracts when they're, to amounts that pretty much strapped the cap. It strapped the cap. Obviously, Garnett's contract was what it was, but you're a franchise player. It is what it is. You're going to get the big bucks. But again, he strapped the cap with some of these other guys. And, of course, Garnett always had to get every single penny possible. He never would, he would never lower his demands at the time of negotiating a new contract to give the team an opportunity to acquire other players and all that. Acquire like a legitimate third or second wheel. Because I think most of the time he needed a legitimate second wheel. You had a third wheel with either Terrell or Wally most of the time. One of those guys could be a third wheel. The other guy could be like a really good fourth guy. And then you bring in a legitimate number two somehow, some way, via free agency, trade, and all that. McHale's lack of creativity didn't help either. But at the same time, when you're strapped with a cap, pardon the tongue twister there, it's hard to make trades. It's really tough because maybe you have players other teams don't want. It's tough to match the money because other players don't want them, this and that. I don't know. That was kind of some of the frustrations during Garnett's career with the salary cap situation. Some of the guys on the roster that did not help. And I don't know. Michael Jordan would always go after North Carolina guys. And I mean, some of those guys were just flat out garbage. They were just busts. Like, Cody Zeller is mediocre at best. What's the other guy's name years ago? I mean, it's just a joke. Wound up with the Lakers for like a cup of coffee when he was a number 3 pick in the draft. I mean, are you kidding me? It's just, that's the problem sometimes. You just, like, too much tunnel vision. North Carolina. And then Kevin Garnett might have his own views about certain guys as well. Maybe he just kind of meddle a little too much. That would be the fear. Of course, he would bring an insane amount of energy to the organization. And I know the fan base would be just, to coin a phrase from like a great-grandparent or something, they'd be tickled pink to have him on board, I'm sure. Okay, maybe not a great-grandparent, but like a grandparent or parent. They'd be tickled pink to have Kevin Garnett on board. But at the same time, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you got to weigh the pros and the cons. The other groups possible out there could be the Wilfs, the Wilf family, and they've done a pretty good job with the Vikings. Sometimes their presence behind a microphone isn't so great, but they did a pretty good job. And, of course, the whole situation with the stadium, I know all of you might think they were very corrupt. Name one sports franchise that hasn't been corrupt about stadiums and this and that. Just name one. You know what I mean? And, of course, cities like New York, they're going to give it to the Yankees in a heartbeat, or at least, or maybe the owners are so rich it doesn't matter. They just buy it themselves because it's the Yankees, teams like that. There's just so much money in New York City, it doesn't even matter. Where here it's a little tougher. There's always going to be some corruption in any type of big, huge, big city, big bucks deal involving a stadium or something like that, or a mall, or a combination of the two, which is what Norm Green wanted to do years ago with the North Stars. There's always going to be corruption somehow, some way. You're in certain politicians' pockets, this and that, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Close this store down, wink, wink, ink, ink, that type of stuff. Close the store down. So this is where the new Metrodome is going to go. This is where the U.S. Bank's going to go. This is where, the next, the new Target Center is going to go. Blah, blah, blah. There's always going to be something like that. There always is. That's just how it is. I mean, that's why when you saw Skyway to Nowhere years ago, you could just sense that's where the new Twin Stadium was going to go. Like there was a voice in my head. This is like 2003, way before you ever thought of a stadium going anywhere near Target Center. There was a Skyway leading to nowhere. And where does that Skyway lead now? You know exactly where it leads. It leads to the new ramps or the Target Field. It's right in that exact area. The ramps and the Target Field combination there. That type of situation. So, I mean, there was always a plan in place. It's just not completed yet. That type of situation. So, that's the one thing with the Wilfs. Go ahead and say what you want. I think they'd be damn good owners of the Minnesota Timberwolves. It might get tiring, though, if you have the same owner of multiple teams. I mean, you have Jerry Reinsdorf with the White Sox and the Bulls. But, hey, I mean, it's not that bad, I suppose. I mean, even the White Sox won a World Series. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while. The White Sox won the World Series in 2005. The Chicago White Sox won a World Series. Think about that. So Reinsdorf has done well in that sense. He's at least brought championships to the city of Chicago. This and that. With both clubs. So, I mean, I think the Wolves could do the same someday. Obviously, they're very generous with their money. This and that. I think Taylor's been generous with his money, but, of course, loyal to a fault to certain people. The Wolves maybe might not be as loyal. They're more willing to make a move on someone, this and that. They made a move on their guy Childress. They sure did. They were like, nope, time for him to go. So that was their first coach, this and that. So they're willing to make moves on people, where Taylor might be a little bit a little bit slower on the trigger for the guy like Kevin McHale and such. Luckily, he learned his lesson and got rid of David Kahn very quickly after that. I think the Wolves could be good. The new one that's popping around right now, Aaron Aflalo. And you think, Aaron Aflalo? He didn't make anything near Kevin Garnett money. Because obviously you have to have billions of dollars to buy an NBA franchise nowadays. Billions. Kevin McHale. Glen Taylor bought the Timberwolves in '94 for $88 million. He's going to wind up with 1.2 or 1.3 billion when all this is done. It's a pretty good investment. Pretty damn good investment. And that's why these guys are billionaires, because they know what they're doing. It's just 100% the way it is. Kevin Garnett's worth about 300 or 400, I believe. So approximately 300 or 400 million with the M, of course. Nobody's worth hundreds of billions, I hope. So he'd have to have a group together with him. He ain't poor, but he's not a billionaire. Aaron Aflalo's maybe around 100 or so, something like that. I mean, he was more of like a good player, really. He was never an all-star or anything crazy like that. But he has a group of guys that add up to $10 billion in value. So I guess he would be ahead of a group where they have the money, he has the face and the voice. Interesting. I'm not sure how excited the Timberwolves fan base would be, but maybe in time they'd get very excited. Maybe they'd see that Aaron Aflalo's a legitimate owner of the franchise. That could be very cool. So we'll see what happens at that. Maybe one of his guys emerges as the real owner at the end of the day, and that's what it is. But a group of guys worth a combination of $10 billion. So that group is legitimate when it comes to the amount of money needed to buy the Wolves. Kevin Garnett, I'm sure he's got enough people in high places, so to speak, to get to that 1.2, 1.3 billion dollar range to buy the Minnesota Timberwolves. It's funny how we're one of the bottom teams in the league and we're still over $1 billion, because teams like the Knicks and stuff, they're worth like $4 or $5 billion. The Lakers, it's insane, absolutely nuts how valuable NBA franchises have become. Donald Sterling years ago, I know the much debated Donald Sterling bought the San Diego Clippers in the early 80s for like $24 million and then sold them for $2 billion to Steve Ballmer. So, I mean, it's, again, say what you want about these guys, that they're snakes, they're mean, they're evil, they're corrupt, they're powerful, but they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. So, anybody buying an NBA franchise, more power to you. If you can afford it, go for it, baby. Go for it. I wish I could have bought a team. I wish I could buy the Wolves. I wish I could buy the Seattle Supersonics, whatever the heck it would be. Wish I could, but unfortunately that just doesn't seem realistic at this stage. Winning the lottery wouldn't get it done. It wouldn't. I mean, winning the lottery, you'd be maybe in Garnett range. Maybe. Like a really insane payout on the lottery, you'd be maybe in Garnett range. You'd still have to get the right group of people, and they'd have to be folks that are already known in NBA circles. So it just is what it is. Interesting thoughts. The other 4 or so groups have been unknown at this stage. There was a Steve Kaplan. He was part of the team. I mean, there was talks about Glen Taylor eventually selling it to Steve Kaplan, who was part of the Memphis Grizzlies. There was always a fear that maybe he might move the team, but probably not, that type of thing. Part owner of the Memphis Grizzlies, he was going to buy into the Wolves about 30% and then work his way up to becoming the majority owner, but he was unable to sell his portion of the Memphis Grizzlies for whatever reason. I'm not sure why, but that's why that deal never really came to pass at the end of the day. So that was just the way it is now. Who knows if that's picking up again, but that was about 5 years ago, before Flip Saunders kind of rolled in and became a part of the franchise, and then very quickly got sick and passed away. Unbelievable situation there. It's going to be fascinating, though. I mean, it's going to be fascinating to see. I always like the thought of getting a new owner in place, especially Glen Taylor at this point, 79 years of age. He's made his money. He's made his money. He probably doesn't want to be as much in the public eye anymore. One major thing of note, though, is every single group that has been conversating with Glen Taylor about buying the team do want to keep him on as owning a significant stake in the team, like 20 to 30% of the club. So that way they don't have to pay as much, I'm sure. So he would keep about a fourth or fifth of the team value to himself. So again, that would probably cut the price down a bit. I would think at the end of the day it would have to. So they'd pay it, and then he'd kind of buy in, this type of thing. It would be a combination of things. That would definitely cut the price down to maybe $700-800 million versus only, right? Versus the $1.2 billion price tag that Glen Taylor is seeking. So kind of funny, but hey, why not? Why not? Then you don't have to go crazy. Garnett wouldn't have to have, multi-billionaires necessarily to help him, even though, wouldn't hurt if he did. That type of thing. Just like the guy who almost bought the Vikings in 05 ended up having, one of the guys was Ziggy Wilf. That was one of his minority owners. And okay, Ziggy, you'll take over and I'll be the minority owner. That type of thing. They just kind of flip-flopped. So kind of funny how that worked out. They all ended up being happy in the end of the day, and they all ended up owning the team and making a lot of money. Believe me, the Vikings are worth more than the $600 million price tag that the Wilfs paid. The Wilfs and the group paid back in 05. Late 05, early 06. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. We can hopefully get a better head of this franchise. Somebody that fans will appreciate, and maybe somebody that'll just do a better overall job. Taylor is a good guy. He seems like a good guy. Obviously a ruthless businessman, and you have to be ruthless to really be successful in business. Was I a nice person when I was talking to my supervisor / manager, so to speak, about my review and my raise? Was I nice or was I tough? And I mean damn tough. I think I was damn tough at the end of the day. Otherwise, because when you're nice and you just sit there and just take it, you're not going to get anywhere. That's just a fact. And I mean, how do you think I got promoted twice? And, in a short amount of time. That's the only way to do it. You can't just sit there and say, oh, okay. Oh, yay, I made 30 cents. I'm making 30 cents more every year. Yay. You can't do that and then complain about it later. Fight, baby. Fight. Fight. Don't be a jackass and burn bridges, but fight. Be tough. That's how it is. So let's get to the Facebook page and the Twitter account. Of course, this will be a one-segment shot. At Wolves Explosion is the Twitter account. Tene Brown, legendary Hall of Fame member of Timberwolves Explosion from New Zealand, says, finally some good news to come out of 2020, and that was, again, John Krasinski. John Craw, Johnny Athletic, says, Glen Taylor to the Athletic, Minnesota. Everybody's been told it has to stay in Minnesota. And again, that was the conversation about Glen Taylor putting the team up for sale. And yes, thank you. That is good news. It is. And remember the post up there where we were talking about, I posted an article. I forget who wrote the article, and I apologize. It's on the Facebook page for Timberwolves Explosion about sell the team, Glenn. It's time, and he's selling the team. So he listened to all of us, I guess. And thank you. Thank you, Glenn, for listening. No offense. Obviously, he's going to still be a part of the organization. He'll still be, but he'll still be at the games. A lot of people believe he just won't be. He just won't have final say on anything anymore. He's just going to be maybe a voting member on this and that. Because if you have if you have hundreds of millions of dollars in the team, you're still going to have some say. I got to think he'll have 2 or 300 million still in the club. But when all is said and done, is my guess. At Wolves Explosion, thank you so much, Tene Brown and Vince Germano, Tene Brown and Levi Brown, all retweeted the most recent show, State of the Timberwolves. Can't thank you guys enough. You guys are just the best ever. I love you guys so much. Vince Germano out of Australia. Just, God, I love you guys. And Tene and Levi out of New Zealand. Great guys. Great guys. Thank you all so much. At Wolves Explosion. Let's get to the Facebook page. Facebook.com/Timberwolves Explosion. Glen Taylor putting the Wolves up for sale. At least there was one comment. This is from WCCO Radio, and I would say miracles do happen sometimes. At least one comment. And Vince Germano says, I like it. Yep, I'm glad you like it. I wish you could call in. Somebody out there, Vince Germano, Tene Brown, any of you. Wayne Hunt, call in. Oh, okay, I'm glad I said the name Wayne Hunt. I am so glad I said the name Wayne Hunt. And I also shared an article from thesportsdaily.com, and of course the article in general is called Crease and Assist, written by Derek Felska. He's my buddy when it comes to Brave the Wild. That's my other podcast. I cover the Minnesota Wild on there. Brave the Wild. He wrote an article. It's like a Q&A with me, basically, like a written down Q&A that I answered and sent back to him, and it's just so much fun. He lives in western Wisconsin. He is a Minnesotan all the way, so don't worry. He's not a Packer fan. He's from Minnesota. He just works in western Wisconsin because that's where he got his job to be a teacher, and he does a great job there. He's even the leader of a union there, teachers union there too. A good guy over there. Lots of fun there. Am I staring at you with my North Stars hat and green shirt on, talking Brave the Wild. Do read that article if you're curious. to hear more about me. And I mentioned this show in there, of course, and how the shows got started, this and that. Jake Lehman, article about him. Article about Jake Lehman on June 25th. I don't believe... Oh, bummer. I think Wayne Hunt just said something. I don't think he actually listed his stuff. I wish he did. Shoot. Oh, he said, crap, I forgot to put my picks in. So, Wayne, yeah, you still have to... I mean, you can still put it in, Wayne, if you're listening. Wayne Hunt, I hope he listens at some point. Even if it's a month from now, you can still put them there. I'll still read it because the season isn't over. Go ahead and put it there. It'll be like a restate of the Timberwolves later on anyway, when I start talking about the draft and such. It's not really a restate of the Timberwolves, but kind of like a part two. A part deux, as Anthony Tolliver would say in French there. Yeah, go ahead and put your, MVP and all that in there. MVP, biggest disappointment, biggest surprise. Go ahead and please put it in there. That would be great to be added to the show, and I love when you ask questions. Wayne Hunt. Courtside Podcast, Wayne Hunt. Vince Germano, Stu Benson. Wayne Hunt is a Memphis Grizzlies fan. Steve Kaplan there. And Vince Germano and Stu Benson are Los Angeles Lakers fans. Yep, the 16-time champions, right? Can you believe that? There it is. Shams Sharnia says, NBA and Timberwolves legend Kevin Garnett and a group of investors are seriously interested in and exploring a bid for Minnesota Timberwolves Glen Taylor, sources tell. Was there a comment there as well? Tanae Brown, there we go. I knew there was some more. Tanae says, would be cool to see KG's group get the team. Kind of feels like a movie. Taylor retires KG's number and then KG buys the team, basically. Kevin Garnett buys the team. Yeah, that sounds about right to me. It would be kind of like a movie in a sense, as long as it doesn't end up being frustrating later on if he gets too crazy. But he's a good, we'll see. As long as they can keep Kevin Garnett to relax, get him to relax a little bit, that'd be nice. Somebody laughed at the thought. Jeff Johnson, locally, Edina, laughed at the thought of Aaron Afalo being a part of buying the team. But hey, I know he doesn't have the money, but he's got guys that are worth $10 billion that do. So it could happen. We'll see. Just keep him in Minnesota at this point. As long as Aaron Afalo and his group are good, honest people and do a damn good job running the Timberwolves, then I'm happy. That's what I care about more than anything at this point. Then I'm very happy. I remember Christian Laettner was going to buy the Vancouver Grizzlies, which is what they were, or was it Memphis? He was working to buy a team as well, and then it never happened. He had a group of people like where Christian Laettner of all people would have been the head of a franchise. I think it was Memphis Grizzlies / Vancouver Grizzlies, sometime along the way, years and years ago now. It couldn't have been Vancouver, no, because they moved to Memphis quite a while ago, didn't they? Yeah, Laettner was still playing, so it would have been Memphis, if anything. I remember Jimmy Jam for like a half a second was a possibility too. Obviously, with a group of people like years ago, back in '94, they just didn't have it. They just gave up. They said, nah. It's just they're worth a lot of money, but maybe not as much, or maybe just too much bull crap, that type of thing. Because there's just so much bull crap. You can't just walk in and say, I have $7 billion. I'm going to buy the Timberwolves. It's not that easy. There's a lot of bullcrap to everything, so and we all know that. There was just an off-season outlook with Jake Lehman and Canis Hoopus. A couple of likes, no real conversation. Unfortunately, I don't think there's any visitor posts. I'll check just in case. To be, obviously it's if people take time to do a post, I better frickin' check, because that would not be very polite of me to do that. No. Where's the visitor posts? Don't you just hate that? Okay. Oh, that's just my post, though. Where's the visitor post? Yeah, that's goofy. I think maybe that's just in general. So that's just kind of how that goes. I guess that's it. There haven't been any recent visitor posts that I believe. Sometimes Wayne posts some, and I just, I love it so much I would hate to miss it. I don't think there is. So apologize if I'm missing anything. I don't think I am at this point. The construction of this sometimes drives me crazy. There's that article from before. June 2nd. Time to sell the team, Glenn. Non-passive aggressive Wolves fans. It's time to sell, Glenn. Looks like that was just a picture. Oh, there it is. It's another page. It's time to sell, Glenn. Political organization. Well, you're getting your way. You are getting your way big time. And There it is. Whoa, sell the bleeping team, Glenn. Wow. Well, it is what it is, and we'll see what happens. I mean, if something happens super quick, I'll come back on the air again, obviously. I mean, as the owner of your freaking team, you better come on the air and talk about it. Otherwise, I guess we're waiting for that draft lottery to figure out where we're drafting. Then we could really get an idea who we're really looking at. It was fun researching the players, discussing them and all that on the last episode, State of the Timberwolves 2020. If you haven't jumped on that yet, please do. Please do. I mean, it's a great show. I had a lot of fun doing that one and discussing all those players. Obviously, that draft is a long ways to go from now. Maybe around Thanksgiving. No, hopefully before that. And we could get back to basketball sometime in December. After that, get back to Timberwolves basketball anyway. Because I don't think we're going to play in any consolation bracket, which, it's not worth it. Let's not get injured playing for some consolation bracket here. That type of situation. Let's just hope they play. We have a champion, and there isn't too much of an asterisk next to that championship. With that said, thank you guys so much for joining this show. Please tell your friends about it if you could. Call into the show if you can. There is just simply use the voice recording application that is on every smart device on the planet. Just click on it, hit record, treat it like a phone call, hit stop, email it to paladinolive@yahoo.com, paladinolive@yahoo.com. You'll be on board in the fan interaction segment, or whatever it is. I mean, well, right now the fan interaction segment was just kind of thrown in at the end of a single segment show, but you get the idea there. One way or another, you'll be on board with me, and it'll be great to hear from you. You can keep it to 5 minutes. You can go beyond if you really have if you have a lot to say, it's fine. As long as it's not like 3 hours, which I'm sure nobody has the time to do that anyway. But you're great to hear your voice today, Brown, Vince Germano, Wayne Hunt, Stu Benz, anybody. Well, local Wolves fans, of course, Jeff Johnson, guys like that. Anybody in Australia, New Zealand, love all you guys. Please call in. That'd be great. Even if it's just like a 30-second little quick thing, it is what it is. You're still part of the show, and it's just so greatly appreciated. Greatly appreciated. Reese Pedretti, Pumpa, yep. Unfortunately, he's a Warriors fan, but that's okay. I didn't hate the Warriors that much this year. I kind of liked the Warriors a little bit until we blew like a huge lead to them, like we did in the past as well, back in like 2010 or something. Or no, we just lost by like 40 points in those Kurt Rambis days. Oh. The Warriors start winning championships when we actually beat them once a year. Back in those days, when the Warriors were just kind of getting going, they'd beat us like 145 to like 100. It's like, wow, this is great. This is just great basketball. Kurt frickin' Rambis, Mr. Know-It-All, Mr. Know-Nothing. Oh yeah. Okay, with that said, stay cool. I know it's hot and humid this weekend here in late July. I'm about to turn 41 years of age on July 29th. It's the 25th right now. As I'm recording this, it's going to publish it in a couple seconds, basically. I'm going to hit the lakes later today if it's not raining. Just to swim. I'm not doing anything else. I'm not drinking it up. I just want to get in the water. That's all. That's all I want to do. That's all I care about on a day like this. That's it. With that said, take care, everyone. And we'll talk to you very soon.